The town of Wasaga is known for having one of the most beautiful beaches in North America, but there is much more of a story to the area. 200 years ago, it was the stage of one of the most important yet unrecognized battles of the War of 1812, with a story revolving around the ship the HMS Nancy. On June 18, 1812, the American government declared war on Britain and invaded Canada. The next 2 years would see some of the bloodiest battles ever fought on Canadian soil and would change the face of our country forever. Hey, hey! After the Battle of Lake Erie in 1813, supply lines to the British fort on Mackinac Island were cut off. In 1814, new supply lines were opened up. These traveled through Holland's Landing Depot, Fort Willow, and Schoonertown, which would later become Wasaga. After that, supplies would board the Nancy for transport to Fort Mackinac. The HMS Nancy was built in 1789 as a fur trading ship. It was armed with two 24-pounder and two 6-pounder cannons. In 1814, it was the only British ship still sailing on Lake Huron. On July 3rd, 5 American ships and 700 men embarked for Fort Mackinac under the command of Arthur Sinclair. Their intentions were to retake the fort and sever the British communication with their native allies. On July 28th, after 2 days of bombardment, the Americans landed on Mackinac Island to attack the British. The attack was a disaster. The Americans suffered 13 men killed and another 55 wounded before they gave up. Commodore Sinclair refused to admit defeat. He realized that if the Americans took control of Lake Huron, they could return the next spring with even more men. The only thing standing between him and that goal was the HMS Nancy. On August 13th, the Americans arrived at Wasaga to ambush the British. Luckily, the ship's commander, Lieutenant Miller Worsley, was warned by a messenger from Fort Mackinac. He was able to tow the Nancy into the safety of the Wasaga River and set up defenses around the ship. That same day, the Americans landed with several howitzers to bombard the British positions. All that day, the British and Americans skirmished. Soon, however, the British realized that they could not win. Rather than see her get captured by the Americans, Lieutenant Worsley ordered that the Nancy be destroyed. The ship was set on fire and sunk. When the Americans saw the smoke rise above the trees, they assumed one of their howitzers had found its mark. The Americans sent several soldiers to investigate. However, by the time they reached the site of the sinking, the British had already escaped. September 1st, Lieutenant Worsley and his men arrived at Fort Mackinac in canoes. They told their story to Colonel Robert McDougall, the commander of the fort. He gave them 60 men of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment and nearly 200 natives to go and take the ships that had sunk the Nancy. Most of the American fleet had returned to Michigan. However, they left 2 ships, the USS Tigress and Scorpion, to guard Lake Huron. On September 2nd, the British arrived in Georgian Bay. They docked their ships and set out on a scouting mission. They discovered the USS Tigress only a few miles away, so on the night of September 6th, they rowed out and attacked it. They caught the Americans by surprise and took the Tigress nearly without a fight. The next day, they sailed over to the Scorpion, and after a brief firefight, it surrendered as well. In that one small action, the British regained control of Lake Huron and ensured that it would stay that way for the rest of the war.
Now the drums beat up again, for all true soldiers, gentlemen. Let us list and march, I say, over the hills and far away.
After the Battle of Nancy, the war began to turn in the favor of Canada's defenders. Historians disagree about the significance of the Battle of Nancy, but the truth is that it kept hundreds of Americans and several ships from fighting in the larger battles in Niagara. It also helped prevent any worry of an American invasion from the west, and kept the British connected with their all-important native allies. It is entirely possible that this little-known battle and a little-known war had a major impact in what Canada is like today.
Over the hills and far away, no more from sound of drum retreat, while Marlborough and Galway beat the French and Spaniards every day. Over the hills and far away, over the hills and o'er the main, the Flanders, Portugal and Spain, we hand commands and will obey. Over the hills and far away, 40 shillings on the drum for those who volunteers to come, for shirts and clothes and present pay. Over the hills and far away, over the hills and o'er the main, the Flanders, Portugal and Spain.